Concerning the introduction to the study of religion, let me tell you that religion is a very important factor in human society because down the ages, it has impacted on all sectors of human life, in all departments of life, in all pillars of culture. Talk of pillars of culture such as aesthetics, politics, economics, ethics, kinship, religion itself. It has actually affected all domains of life, including education and development. So we are no longer saying religion is a matter of spirituality, because we have seen religion working very well in matters to do even with the founding universities, founding big business. We have seen religion being done in a manner that suggests that the traditional understanding of religion has changed. So when we look at theory and method in the study of religion, we realize that we must embrace all the methods that we have noted earlier today, where sometimes we look at religion sociologically, politically, from political dimension, we look at religion from developmental perspective, and we are going to investigate the etymological definition of religion first and examine why it is difficult to have a universal definition of the same. Now, taking etymology or etymologically, the word religion comes from a Latin word religion, which means to bind, religio, which means to tie together or bind together. Then this then points to the bond between humans and the divinity or the supernatural, commonly referred to as God. This bond is both vertical and horizontal. Vertically, religion binds people together in a human society. Religion then can be defined as a system of beliefs and practices that relate to the supernatural beings and are intended to organize and define the environment in which the religious community operates. For an African, the concept of religion permeates all departments of life, as John Beatty once told us. For John Beatty goes on to describe Africans as notoriously religious. Now, most African traditional languages lack a single word denoting religion as such. For an African, to live is to be covering in a religious drama, which starts before birth and does not end in death. So religion is like you don't have an African word for the word religion, because we live a religious drama. Coughing, jumping, thinking, walking, it starts even before birth. So that is a very interesting aspect in the study of religion, particularly when we come to Africa. So for an African, religion is the way of life. It is life itself, indeed. Now, going to the problem of defining religion, the concept of religion is intricate and very difficult to define. This is demonstrated by the lack of agreement from different scholars. Different scholars define religion heavily leaning on their area of study. For example, sociologists will define religion from a sociological point of view, while philosophers, psychologists, and theologians will define religion from their own perspectives. Now, this lack of agreement confirms that there exists no universal definition of religion, for each of the definitions becomes crowded with limitations, such as vagueness, narrowness, and even prejudices. So you can think more and more on the problem of defining religion. There are quite a number of arguments that will show you, read you to get more points on this area. Another thing to think about is the importance of studying religion. Why should we waste money? We asked that question earlier. Now, why should we study religion? Now, let me say that religion is a powerful phenomenon in the world today, and it has been so far as long as human history can attest. Religion has influenced the rise and fall on inquiries. Okay, for example, then it has also participated in the rise and fall of empires. For example, you can think of the pharaohs in Egypt, the Greece, the Roman empires. Religion has also united many people and kept them knit together in India, that's Hindu, in the Jewish diaspora, that is Judaism, and in Europe, that is Christianity. It has held people together, like the glue that knits people together, that joins us together. In Africa, traditional religion has for long revolved around the axis that is religion and is enhanced African identity. In modern society, religion is a subject in world-renowned universities. For example, Kenyatta University, Nairobi universities, and so on and so forth. It continues to influence many aspects of modern society. It continues to influence politics. It continues to influence economics. It continues to influence arts. So if you look at the Kenya today, when politicians troop the churches, still the Archbishop of the Anglican Church tells them, no, please stop doing politics in the church. Shows that they need support from religious community because of the power that we see in religious domain. So in Kenya, even evangelism is considered as one of the fastest growing industry today. It's an industry to some. Of course, there are these so-called new religious movements. Some are a bit chaotic, some are unconventional religious groupings, but they work within the cover of religion, and that, of course, complicates even the study of religion. Of course, we've not gone into details today, but we had done it earlier in the other materials we had looked at. Now, modern society is negatively impacted by agri-terrorism, which pegs its ideology on religion. You see, you talk of Al-Qaeda or Shabab. Now, these factors adequately demonstrate the importance of studying religion. Unless we study religion, we may not understand these groups adequately. We may not even advise the government adequately on how to deal with these chaotic groups, call them religious groups or sectarian groups. Any student who wishes to understand the dynamics of at play in the society today must study religion and its implications. Now, something else I want to talk about is now the phenomenon of religion. And the phenomenon is all about experiences of religions. Of course, these phenomena include rituals, social discourses, marital discourses, where dowry is paid, where a lot of, even liturgies in ecclesiastical circles. All these are rituals, are phenomena of religion. Even some of these symbolic trees, symbolic areas, artifacts, they are all part of the discourses. When we talk about taboos, all these are phenomena of religions. So religion manifests itself transculturally and transhistorically. An examination of the religious community reveals an acceptance of a supernatural being, adherence to the supernatural encompasses certain rituals, certain doctrines, and myths. The starting point of religion is tied to revelation that carves out a path to salvation. Now, going on with our own phenomena of religion, we also look at the manifestation, because these manifestations explain clearly, helps us to understand very clearly what are the phenomena of religion. So, The phenomenology of religion concerns the experimental aspect of religion. It describes phenomena in terms consistent or in tandem with the orientation of worshippers. Here, religion is seen as a collection of different components which are examined, analyzed across different religious traditions. In modern societies, emerging ideas have proven to have a corrosive effect on traditional forms of religious experience. Now, this automatically leads to a decline in the religiosity of societies and their institutions. Despite this decline, scholars have observed a global revival of religion in the last few decades. Now, this conclusion has been arrived at after analyzing various manifestations and expectations of religion. The acceptance and belief in a supernatural being and the ultimate reality involves a multi-dimensional process. That process captures attitudes, it captures beliefs, it captures emotions, experiences, rituals, and one's identity within a particular community or society. Religion in a complex reality Religion is a complex reality that is multidimensional in nature. It provides both personal and social identity within the cosmic and metaphysical background. Now, scholars such as Lenski identified four discussions in religious orientation, namely, 1, the associational dimension that point to the frequency of religion and religious involvement in worship and prayer services. Number 2, the commercial discussion. Number 3, the intellectual acceptance of orthodoxy in doctrines. Number 4, the devotionalism, which points to personal communication with the supernatural in terms of prayer, medication, and religious behavior. So the multidimensional manifestation clearly indicates that the components of a religious life are cognitive, where there is something to do with thinking. It's also relational, it is also behavioral, it's also ritualistic. When you say relational, there is a social dimension that comes in. When you come to behavioral, there is psychology that comes in. When you come to rituals, there are quite a number of things, including order of worship, the ones that are said repetitively, things like water, baptisms, and all that. So you can see all these are multi-dimensional manifestation that clearly shows us the phenomena of religion. Something else that we looked at the last time, but we need to also mention it, is distinguishing marks of religion. We may want to consider these 5 here, and because we are not getting into details, we may talk of the sacred and the profane. We may talk about the supernatural. We can talk about myths and doctrines. We can talk about symbols and signs. We can talk about rites and worship. These are some of the distinguishing marks of religion. Allow me to start with the first one. And distinction between the sacred or the sacred and the profane in terms of objects, places, and even times can be considered to be the defining characteristic of religion. For example, the mugumo tree is sacred to the Kikuyu people of central Kenya. Easter is a sacred time for Christians, and the Mecca shrine is a sacred place for Muslims. These sacred objects, times, and places remind people that there is more to life than what is visible. Number B, or number 2, we talked about the supernatural as one of the distinguishing marks of religion. And concerning the supernatural, I should hasten to say Belief in the supernatural, and particularly in gods, spirits, divinities, and so on and so forth, is one of the most obvious characteristics of religion. However, theism by itself is not equal to religion, because some religions are atheistic, or they are not godly. They don't believe in God, yet they call themselves religion. That's why we shall talk of cults. But to a large extent, belief in the supernatural is a fundamental aspect of most religion. Number 3, myths and doctrine as distinguishing mark of religion. I should say that all religions employ the use of myths and doctrines. Generally, we can say that a myth is a story which is taken to manifest some aspect of cosmic order and has a designated function in human life. Now, in almost all religions, there exists a close association of myth and ritual. For example, New Year festivals include the recitation and enactment of creation myths. In ancient Mesopotamia, the New Year was celebrated as a renewal of the primordial victory of order over chaos. Also, during celebrations of, of the rites of passage, the rites of passage, birth, puberty, marriage, and death, there is always a presentation of myths. Initiation ceremonies in most religions are rich in mythical symbolism. The doctrines of most religions designed for a specific people, time, and place. Okay? They are connected and often derived from the mythology of specific doctrines. The other distinguishing mark of religion is symbols and signs. So, talking about symbols and signs, I should say that a religious symbol rather, is an iconic representation intended to be a pointer to a specific religion or to a specific concept within a given religion. So symbols create a resonant myths expressing the moral values of the society or the teachings of a religion. They also foster solidarity and fellowship among believers and bring them closer. Okay? Take for example, the star is a symbol of Indians and crescent is a symbol of Islam. The Aum is a symbol of Hinduism. All these are signs and symbols. Now, concerning rites and worship, is the last of the fifth that we have considered here. Rituals are important components of any community or group of people, and definitely of any religion. Of course, cultures have these rites and all that, rituals that they are in. Now, rituals serve to bring members of a religious community together, not just in the present, but in the past and in the future. The rituals connect the past, present, and future with their ancestors, for example, and their descendants. Now, the most common ritual among all religions is the ritual of transition. At death, you transit to another world. After life, you become ancestor, you go to, the Christians talk of heaven, or they talk of other places, but you transit after death. That is a very common ritual, the ritual of death. The other rituals include celebration of birth, celebration of baptism, celebration of initiation, celebration of marriage, and so on and so forth. Now, concerning the importance of revelation and salvation in religion, Most religious point of revelation of revealed content is seen as the basis and foundation of their existence. So the issue of revelation is very critical because people say our religion was revealed to us by the Maker. You can talk of the cause of Abraham. You can talk of the call in Moses, the Mosaic call. You can talk of so many people who talk about the call or even strange revelation. It can be peculiar, but people talk about revelation as their basis of their foundation, the basis and foundation of their existence, rather. Now, this concept is basic in most religions of such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Jews and Christians believe in the revelations made and written in the Bible as their historical experience of faith in God, who mightily intervenes in human history. Muslims believe in the revelations made to Prophet Muhammad by God and recorded in the Holy Quran. Revelation is therefore the foundation for their belief in God. Now, most religions assert that humans don't live in harmony with the ultimate reality. Humans therefore need salvation from their present condition because they want to seek harmony with the ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is the final end, the uncontestable reality, that is God. So to live harmoniously, the human being would always tend to focus on salvation as a way of getting harmony with the ultimate reality. Now, from this perspective, religion becomes a path to salvation. Religious acts, such as meditation, accumulations of wisdom, asceticism, mysticism, prayer, rituals, good deeds, and so on and so forth, chart that path to salvation. Now, monotheistic religions like Christianity and Islam teach that the barrier between humans and God is sin, dhambi. Now, salvation consequently means removing this moral barrier and restoring a personal communication with God, which will endure forever. For pantheistic religions, salvation means liberation from ignorance and the fusion of the impersonal self with the absolute. Some Eastern religions, for example, Buddhism and Taoism, take salvation as an illumination, meaning the discovery of and conformity of oneself with an eternal law that governs existence. The other topic that we must dwell in, because we should have moved beyond here by now, is the theories of origin of religion. There are so many theories, there are very many. We cannot consider all of them. One of the theories is fear as a parent of religion. Another theory is, there are quite a number, religion as wishful thinking or wishful fulfillment. The other theory is magic is the first form of religion. Quite a number. Another theory of the origin of religion, there are quite a number, is totemism. We look at totemism. There is also animism, all that, where religion begins as animism, according to E.B. Taylor, one of the British anthropologists, and then it evolves to polytheism, and from polytheism it now graduates into monotheism. And you see E.B. Taylor shamelessly saying a lie about Africa when he had not stepped on the soil of Africa. He said African people are animistic. That is the first stage of religion, and they will grow to become polytheists or believers in many gods. Later on, they will graduate like us in Europe and the North and become monotheists. But that's a lie. African people have never been either polytheists or animists. And you know, animists believe anything it has spirit, has life, even stones. Because they handle sacred trees, sacred objects, they revered trees like Mugumo, all that. They thought, or Kaya Forest, or Mount Kenya, those are revered sacred mountains of God, but they are not God. There are no gods in Africa. They were never there. But you see, there are many theories. Some are misleading. So let us look at some, whether briefly, at least we should not, even at the risk of repeating some of these things we have done in the other material we looked at. Let me say fear is one of the theories of origin. Dini ilianzia wapi? Where did religion start? Fear is a psychological phenomenon, often said to be because from the emergence of religion. This view is quite old as the ancient Greeks and the Romans. Now, ancient Roman philosopher and poet Lucretius contended that the belief in the gods was based on an illusion and that fear was at the root of religion. One British philosopher by name David Hume, in the 18th century, after Industrial Revolution, around that time when sociology of religion began to be studied and researched on and written by the likes of Sir James Fraser, in his Natural History of Religion, pointed out, David Hume now, that a fear of natural forces led man or humanity to believe in gods who manipulated nature. Hence, humanity felt and believed that gods would intervene in on their behalf if he tried to please them, or if a human being tries to please gods, then those gods will intervene. Those are the beliefs. When you are fearing, you want to think of one who is more mightier than you. Now, German scholar Max Muller also supported this theory. That is one among the many. There's also Bertrand Russell. It's Bertrand, not betrayed, but Bertrand Russell puts it, let me quote, religion is based primarily upon fear. It is partly as the wish to feel that, to have a kind of elder brother who will stand by you in all your troubles, in all your disputes. Fear of the mysterious, fear of defeat, fear of death, fear is the parent of cruelty, and therefore it is no wonder if cruelty and religion have gone hand in hand. It is because fear is at the basis of those two things. In this world, we can now begin a little to understand things and a little to master them by help of science. Now, this has forced its way step by step. This has forced its way step by against the opposition of all the old precepts. Science can help us to get over this craven fear in which humanity has lived for so many generations. Science can teach us, and I think our own hearts can teach us, no longer to look around for imaginary support, no longer to invent allies in the sky, but rather look to our own efforts here below to make this world a fit place to live in, instead of the place that the churches in all these centuries have made it. You know, this atheist turned atheist Rousseau could see that solution is in science. Science is providing to the fear of the unknown. Science will crush the fears. But I do not think fear is really the parent of religion, but that's one of the many theories advanced across the centuries. Now, let's talk about the other theory of origin of religion, and it is religion as wishful fulfillment. We may start by asking, is God really there? Or is our sense of his existence nothing more than a secret hope that our greatest longings might be fulfilled? Is God for real, or is he just an illusion, like a dream in the night? The questions have long been debated within Western civilization. In recent years, however, the idea that God is simply some kind of human wish fulfillment has gained credibility and thus increasingly used by anti-Christian propagandists. The two writers who are especially associated with the development are Ludwig Feuerbach and the psychologist Sigmund Freud, who died the other day. The latter died in 1939, just the other day. Feuerbach's chief work is the essence of Christianity, in which he argues that the idea of God arises understanding, but mistakenly from human experience. Religion in general is simply the projection of human nature onto an illusory transcendent plane. So human beings mistakenly objectify their own feelings. They interpret their experiences as an awareness of God, whereas it is in fact nothing other than experience of themselves. God is the longing of the human soul personified. So you can see this is another theory. Religion is a wishful fulfillment. In other words, it is neurotic, as Sigmund Freud will tell us. Okay, the other one is magic. Magic is the first form of religion. And you can say briefly that the question of the relation between magic and religion has often been discussed by anthropologists and has an important bearing on the problem of the origin and nature of religion. In dealing with this relationship, many questions inevitably arise. Have we sufficient grounds? Do we have sufficient grounds for assigning logical or chronological priority to the one rather than to the other? And if so, to which of the two does priority belong? Can we place a genetic relation between them? Did the one spring from the other? Did one spring from the other by way of development or else by way of relapse? Or did they have independent origins? In an attempt to answer these questions, at least three positions have emerged. The first position holds that religion was prior to magic, or in the words of Jevons, that belief in supernatural or religion was prior to the belief in magic, and that the latter, when that's the religion, latter is magic, sorry, whenever it sprang up, was a degradation or relapse in the evolution of religion. Now, this doctrine of relapse, implying that humanity started with a relatively pure from a religion, recurs in other contexts in Javan's book. For instance, he holds that polytheism is a relapse from a kind of monotheism. This, however, has few, if any, supporters among modern anthropologists. Andrew Ian's theory, he is an exception at this point. He set forth the theory that spiritual intuition, rather than magic, accounted for the rise of religion. He sees primitive monotheism as the root of religion, out of which animism and myth grew. A second position holds that magic was prior to religion, and that the latter evolved in some way out of the former. Sir James Fraser is the outstanding exponent of this view. His famous theory may be thus briefly summarized. I quote, "In the evolution of thought, magic as representing a lower intellectual stratum has probably everywhere preceded religion." End of quotes. At first, humanity sought adjustment through magic, but a later recognition of the inherent falsehood and barrenness of magic set the more thoughtful part of humanity to cast about for a truer theory of nature and a more fruitful method of turning as resources to account. Now, this man's or human's experience of the theory of magic drove him or drove humanity to a different and better method of dealing with the unseen. That is the age of magic. It died because people realizes that something beyond magic can come. So gradually it gave way to the age of religion in a world where humans' despair of magic is the genesis of religion. Now you think of Fraser, Sir Fraser, whose theory has proceeded into suggestive and thought-provoking, but though doubles, it contains elements of truth. It cannot be accepted in the sharp, antithetical way in which he presented it. As Edwards ironically states, it is far too intellectualistic a view of the origin of religion. It seems to represent a human being, human species, as almost a full-blown armchair philosopher in search of a working theory of life and the world, and ignores the spontaneous emotional response to environment which played a much greater part in the life of a primitive human than reflective thought did. Further, the theory only offers a negative explanation of the genesis of religion. That is, the theory of magic. A positive motive for religion still needs to be found. A third maintains that magic and religion had a common root in humans' experience of the mysterious forces of the world, but that in the course of human evolution, they revealed their mutual incompatibility, even to the extent of active hostility. In this theory, then religion and magic are thought of as issuing out of common conditions, being or proceeding from common conditions, being the result of humans' more or less conscious experiments with the unseen powers in his or her keen struggle for existence, and of his or her endeavor to utilize the mysteries around him or her, which are generally called mana, to help him or her in the battle of life. Now, this as indicated above is a view accepted by most modern anthropologists and from various people who see it from this angle. Yeah, unless there are questions, we stop there, and when we come back, we look at the scientific study of religion. Any question?